Okay, so if you clicked on this video, then you probably are already interested in, or at least aware of, the shonen series Rurouni Kenshin. But since any and all anime versions of Kenshin are many years in the past now, and since I am an old angry man who was coming up in his teens in the early 2000s when it was coming out, that makes this the perfect storm of a video for me to direct you to exactly how to enjoy the anime series, what to watch, what to avoid, and give you a guideline of the best way to watch Rurouni Kenshin. This is even more important considering a brand new Kenshin anime is slated for 2022. We don't know what arcs of the series that it's going to cover, but no matter which direction it goes, this comprehensive list will help you get prepared for it. But before we get into it, if you please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for various anime, manga, movie, and existential life dread type content. Everyone that subscribes to the Real Life Ryan channel gets a free spot in joining my Juppon Gatana, and together we will conquer Japan and take it over with a new ruling government and abolishing their backward-ass copyright laws, thus freeing people like Totally Not Mark and any other AnyTuber out there. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel and join the righteous cause. You know you want to. Anyway, let's start this off. So you want to get into Rurouni Kenshin. Where do you begin? Well, first and foremost, my answer is the manga. Yeah, I know this is an anime video, but dear God, the manga is the best and ultimate source for Kenshin. For one thing, it gives you the entire story from start to finish, which no anime is going to do. It's much darker than most of the anime versions, with a little bit more of intense violence, and it's completed. It's a finished series, 28 volumes and 255 chapters. This manga is long enough to enjoy a good journey, but it's not so long that it overstays its welcome. And I'm not including the revival Hokkaido arc here because I'm only talking about the original manga run from 1994 to 1999. And all existing Kenshin anime adapt from within that run. But anyway, if you would rather watch the anime than read manga, I still got you covered, so let's start from the beginning. The first thing we have to look at is the 95-episode anime series by Aniplex, just titled Rurouni Kenshin. It aired continuously in Japan, but in the West and other places, it's tend to be separated into 3 seasons, which will make it a little bit easier to talk about. Overall, though, this is the anime you want to go with. It has the traditional 90s animation style, and though the early episodes are a little stunted and cheap, it does get much better as it nears the end of Season 1 and into Season 2. The action quality is up to standard for the time, and the OST is absolutely iconic and really enhances a lot of the emotional and intense moments. This is the anime to go to if you want the fullest Kenshin experience in anime form and with the most amount of consistency. However, and this is a big however, this series is filled with a ton of filler material. And if for some reason you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll just say it quickly. So, filler is what is known as what happens when the anime staff is either catching up too quickly to the manga or needs to create some extra stories to fill time, such is the case with this 90s version. But luckily, you have me here to guide you, so I will tell you exactly what to watch and what to avoid. Now, a lot of this comes down to preference. Not all the filler in Rurouni Kenshin is bad, but a lot of it is just simply forgettable and sometimes doesn't make sense. As in, how do you give Kenshin, a master swordsman, a reasonable threat within a 20-minute episode? Most of the antagonists that can actually stand toe-to-toe with him tend to last for a long arc or multiple episodes, so watching Kenshin suddenly struggle against lower-tier enemies can feel pretty forced. Not to mention, a lot of the filler episodes focus on slice of life and comedy style episodes, and there's a few episodes where it works, but mostly it doesn't. Anyway, let's start with Season 1. So Season 1 of the anime adapts from chapters 1 through 47 of the manga, mostly going straight through the story, but adding in occasional filler episodes here and there. If you want to avoid the filler episodes and just watch what's adapted from the manga, then you watch episodes 1 through 12, then episodes 19 through 21, and finally episodes 23 and 24. Those are all the episodes that actually adapt the manga. Like I said, most of the filler episodes in Season 1, they're fine, but they're not really going to give you anything memorable. Then we get to Season 2, and this is the absolute peak of Rurouni Kenshin. Season 2 of the original 90s anime adapts the Kyoto arc from the manga, which is, in my humble opinion, the best overall arc of the manga. And Season 2 has no filler at all. It is straight up, full, balls to the wall, an adaptation of the Kyoto arc of the manga, and the action is incredible, the themes are beautifully displayed, and it has who I think is a top 5 best shonen antagonist ever in Makoto Shishio. All around, it does complete justice to the manga, and sure, it's a little less graphic to fit in with the edited TV standards of Japan in the 90s, but it doesn't take much away from the feeling of what Kenshin is supposed to be. That's all there. Anyway, Season 2 would cover chapters 48 through 151 of the manga, and takes place from episodes 28 through 62 of the anime. But then you get to Season 3, and Season 3 of Rurouni Kenshin is the exact polar opposite of Season 2, meaning that Season 3 is 100% filler. All of it. It adapts nothing from the manga. By this time, the anime was too caught up with the manga, so they needed to keep creating filler storylines, all of which are really tough to get through, and the series was canceled before they could continue the manga, which is a shame for many reasons. One, because the next and final arc of the manga is the Jinshu arc, which is arguably just as good as the Kyoto arc, and has what I think are some of the best individual moments and scenes from the entire manga. The anime even planned to eventually continue this, including characters from the Jinshu arc like Tomoe in the end credits of Season 3, but she never actually appears in the series. So, watch Season 3 at your own disclosure. There are some filler stuff that's okay. The mini Son of God arc is kind of the highlight, but it's still not a very high bar. And there is one slice of life episode later on where all the Kenshin ladies go out on the town together, and it's cute, but yeah, not too great. The final episode of this anime as well feels like a very abrupt send-off and doesn't really give much resolution to anything. So yeah, episodes 63 through 95 are pretty much skippable unless you are just a huge fan of this anime in particular and want more of it, regardless of quality or if it relates to the manga. Now, the next thing I'm going to mention is the Rurouni Kenshin anime movie, and there's a lot of confusion surrounding this one, and lots of people forget it actually exists, which is understandable because it's not very good, and it's also incredibly hard to find. But it is technically canon to the anime series, so it's the same animation style and more or less fits in either after Season 2 or after Season 3. It doesn't really matter where you put it. But no, it also does not adapt any of the manga and can also be classified as filler. It came out in 1997, and I barely remember anything about it. I don't even know where it's available to watch, and I can barely find any clips of it. This seems like something that's become kind of lost to time. Also, there's a lot of confusion starting here because in the West and some other countries, this movie is called Samurai X, the movie. Now, Samurai X is also the title of the Kenshin OVAs, which I will talk about in a minute, but this movie is canon to the anime series that we just discussed. It is not canon to the Samurai X OVAs. So how does this happen? Well, the 90s were an odd time for anime. When being brought over from Japan for whatever reason, the 95-episode anime series got licensed by Media Blasters, but the movie and the OVAs got picked up by ADV Films. To avoid right conflicts, they couldn't be titled the same thing for one reason or another, so one got titled Rurouni Kenshin and the other rebranded to Samurai X. But the Samurai X movie is supposed to be included with the Rurouni Kenshin anime continuity, but then it's all filler anyways, so it doesn't matter at all at the end of the day. But like I said, it's kind of confusing, but I hope I cleared that up for you at least a little bit. Also, you don't need to watch this movie at all. But then let's move on to the other Samurai X titled properties. First, we have Samurai X Trust and Betrayal, released in 2000, and this is a 4-episode OVA specifically covering Kenshin's backstory when he was a deadly assassin fighting within the revolution of Japan. Kenshin was not a samurai, but yeah, whatever, Samurai X, it sounds cool, I guess. Should have made it Samurai XXX, yeah. Anyway. This 4-episode miniseries is very different from the 95-episode anime, both in tone and in animation. This takes a very serious approach to the Kenshin mythos and cuts out most of the humorous scenes. The anime is dark, gritty, and graphic when it comes to the kills and gore. Not to mention the art style and colors are much more subdued and meant to give you a real uncomfortable existential feeling. Now, this does adapt a portion of the manga that the other anime never got to, specifically chapters 165 through 179. Now, some people think that this OVA adapted the entire Jinshu arc, but this is incorrect. As you see, it only covers about 14 chapters of it. So, part of the Jinshu arc, yes, but only about a fourth of it. And also, some people consider this to be a prequel to the first anime series. And though what happens in these 4 episodes is the correct backstory, it does not contradict anything from the first anime series. So I guess you could say that it's canon, but they're really not. This OVA was made on its own and to be its own thing. It has its own style, its own animation, tone, music, that is just a version that is meant to be much more adult-oriented. They don't match up whatsoever with the 90s series, but if you want to know Kenshin's story, this OVA is essential to watch. It's an absolute must, and it works phenomenally even if you haven't seen the 90s anime series. Being that it's Kenshin's backstory, you don't really need any prior knowledge coming into watching this. And it ends on a tragic note, but also feels definitive. So this can totally be watched on its own with no other anime, and you would still have an enjoyable experience. Next, we have Samurai X Reflections, released in 2003. And, oh boy, okay, so this is the very definition of a mixed bag. This is a 2-episode OVA that, well, I guess it's canon to the first Samurai X OVA, but it skips over the entire manga story, only including some flashbacks, and then makes up its own ending for Kenshin's story that has nothing to do with the ending of the manga. So this is just something completely different of its own. Again, it's not canon to the 90s anime series, but it doesn't contradict it either. But everything that was supposed to happen in the manga, it still happens, you just don't see it. Episode 1 is mostly from Kaoru's point of view and has flashbacks showing various scenes from the manga in that darker, grittier style that was pretty consistent and established in the first Samurai X OVA, but then the second episode, it just goes everywhere. First, they adapt just a little bit more of the Jinshu arc. We actually get to see its main antagonist, Enishi, grown up, but instead of adapting the entire arc, they only show one moment of it, and then the final battle between Kenshin and Enishi on the beach. So I can't tell you really what chapters it adapts. I mean, I guess these ones a little bit, but it doesn't really adapt any. It basically is just trying to say, oh yeah, these things happened, but it hardly goes into any detail. So basically it tries to adapt the finale of the Jinshu arc within the span of about 15 minutes, but with no prior plot line getting us there. And then it just makes up its own ending to the Kenshin story that is nothing like what the manga was. That's not to say the ending here in Reflections is horrible, it's just not correct. So how do I recommend this one? I don't know. I would honestly say skip it, but then again, it is the only anime adaptation we have of Kenshin versus Enishi, so it's kind of worth checking out, but just know it redirects itself and is not consistent at all with the manga. Then finally, we have Rurouni Kenshin, the new Kyoto arc from 2013. And I'm not going to be delicate with this. This is a piece of hot flame and garbage shit that never needed to exist and deserves to be run over by a truck before being blasted into space, never being heard from again. This is a 2-part anime movie that adapts only the Kyoto arc of the manga. For what purpose, I don't know, because you know how I said the Kyoto arc is the best arc of the series and that the 90s anime pretty much did it perfect? Well, this just takes the arc and shits all over it. The first mistake is trying to cram the entire story within 2 episodes, which means it's chopped up to shit with a ridiculous amount of cutscenes and things cut out for time. But what is kept in the episodes, a lot of it is changed for no reason. There's narrative beats, character deaths, the final battle with Shishio. It's all changed, it's all rushed. It feels like they're trying to shove so much content in such a small container. And it's a complete misunderstanding of a lot of the scenes, like when Kenshin has the choice to use a sword he thinks is real against an opponent, something he never vowed to do, or in the final fight with Shishio. And I'm just gonna spoil it, because fuck it, don't watch this version. Kenshin splits Shishio's head wide open. You know, Kenshin, whose entire purpose of his character in this part of the story is having a vow to never kill again. Yeah, it's ridiculous. The animation is also so flat and stunted, and overall, I have no idea why they wanted to try to make this. It's pointless, it's stupid, avoid it at all costs. But that about does it, guys. That was the last Kenshin anime until the most recent announcement. Now, I wouldn't expect anything until probably late 2022, if at all, but I also don't know what exactly the new anime is going to adapt. It seems way too late to try to continue the 90s series canon and finally adapt the Jinshu arc. But from what I understand, this will be a series and not an OVA. So I feel like it could either be a complete reboot starting from the beginning of the manga and adapting the entire thing without filler, which would be amazing. B, adapting the Kenshin revival, which is the Hokkaido arc, which started in 2017. And admittedly, I have not read that, and that's a story for another time. Or C, maybe this is a completely anime original series and won't follow the manga at all, which could go either direction. Whatever the case, at least you have a guideline of where to begin if you want to start getting into Kenshin through the anime. I've been meaning to make this video for a long time, and I'm happy to finally bring it to you guys. So let me know what you think of my breakdown, and if you're a Kenshin anime fan, what is your favorite version? I'm sure most people will be saying either the 90s series or the first Samurai X OVA, but you guys let me know down in the comments. Also, please like and comment on the video because if you enjoyed it, all engagement does help it be seen in the algorithm better, and January is a pretty rough month here on YouTube as far as the revenue goes. But anyways, I appreciate all your help and support, and subscribe to the channel if you would like to. Other than that, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time.